we humans had this in us all along. Bitcoin just unlocked this, uh, the power of consensual interactions and voluntary interacting with others voluntarily, because all other types of money has a bit of violence baked into them, since someone can print it, which is just the same as stealing from your fellow man. And we humans have two means of resolving conflict. And one is violence and the other is communication. And Bitcoin makes communication more profitable. It removes the profitability of violence.
Knut, you made it.
It appears I did.
You found your way from Medellin up to El Salvador.
I did, and it's fantastic to finally be here and finally see Bitcoin Beach. I've been wanting to go here for a long time.
Was that the first time that we've met in Medellin?
I don't think so. I mean, we probably met at some conference somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe.
Were you in Lugano this year?
I was.
Okay.
Did we meet in
met
Lugano?
there. I know you.
Yeah,
I felt like we'd met, but sometimes when you just see people on Twitter all the time, you like think you've met in person. You realize you haven't. So.
No, but there's a high likelihood. I mean, my Dunbar's number for who I met and where is just completely tilted.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about that today. I was like, I feel I love like going to all the Bitcoin conferences. I love meeting all the people, but I feel like have way too many people that I interact with, and it's hard to keep them all straight in my head.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
It's like you're like, I know them, but I can't remember their name, but I kind of remember their story and what they were telling me about their childhood, and so that's funny. But yeah, we were at was it just called Bitcoin Medellin? What was the conference called that we were at?
Bitcoin Conference, Medellin Bitcoin Conference or something?
Yeah, it was super cool conference.
Super cool.
First time event. Shout out to
John McRaw.
Shout out to John.
Shout
he
out
did
to
an
John.
Amazing job.
Amazing guy.
I like those kind of smaller conferences. It just has like I don't know. It just has a different feel to it and
different vibe for sure.
So it was a lot of fun going down there. Medellin's a beautiful city.
Stunning. I mean, and we did you do that tour the day after the conference?
No, I didn't, but I was in Medellin like 6 or 7 years ago. We spent a couple weeks there. I actually took both my kids and my wife, and we went down there. And so, so we did all that stuff while we were there.
All right. I've been to Colombia before. I've been to Cartagena, but this was first time in Medellin, and the first time I really got the chance to drive around a bit and see the countryside. And what a beautiful country! It's stunning. So we really enjoyed that.
Stunning countryside, and the weather's like perfect there. I mean, it really has a lot of things going for it.
Absolutely.
I've heard that the crime there is kind of on the uptick again, and so that's the one downside.
On the uptick again?
Yeah. They had kind of a honeymoon period. It was like 10 years ago. It kind of things had been really bad, and then they cleaned it up. But I've heard lately it's kind of getting a little sketchy again. So
that's that's not good. I mean, that's the opposite of El Salvador, though, right? Everything is like, this is like the safest country on earth now, isn't it?
Well, that's the irony. I've been in El Salvador for so long, and so usually when I travel to other places, you had all your instincts intact, and so you were careful with what you did and everything. And now I'm so used to being so safe here. I had to kind of remind myself a few times in Medellin, like, okay, like, don't just have your phone out while you're walking on the street. There's just the common sense things that people tell you, and so. But you're used to living here in El Salvador. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
I actually looked up some statistics before I left, and crime rates are still lower in Colombia than both in Spain and particularly Sweden.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
Or Spain was kind of similar, but and of course there are lots of variables, what people report and don't report and stuff like that. And of course they don't they don't count like the overarching crime like taxes and inflation
Yeah.
and those kinds of crimes. But pure getting mugged on the street crime is lower in Colombia than in Sweden.
Well, it might be too that the people in Colombia just don't report it because they feel there's no point. So
No,
it could
yeah,
be
but the same is
some
true
of
for
that.
Sweden
Really,
nowadays. Yeah,
it's gotten that bad
yeah,
there.
it's gotten that bad in certain areas. Like it's
Okay.
very local, but yeah, so there's a lot of problems. But it's kind of surreal for me growing up in what used to be the safest place on earth to like Colombia being quote unquote safer just feels weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, same in El Salvador. It's like the murder rate here is like a third of what it is in the U.S. now. So
Yeah,
it's
I heard they didn't have a murder here for 3 years or something, right? Or
no,
it's
that's not
not
quite.
quite true.
That's a. They've taken a little bit of license. They've taken the cumulative days, like
Uh-huh.
during Bukele's tenure, where there hasn't been murders, and
All
strung
right.
them together. So there's been some days with
Yes.
murders, but they're saying that they've had that many days without any murders.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
um, but let's start out with kind of introducing you to the audience and get a little bit of your backstory. And yeah, let's dive. You were telling me a little bit about your time sailing tall ships around the world
Yeah.
and growing up in Mozambique, and so would love to give people a little color on your background, and then we'll jump into how Bitcoin fit into that.
All right. I'm Knut Svanholm. I consider myself an international village idiot these days, and armchair philosopher and author and educator, I guess. I fell into the Bitcoin rabbit hole some years before the block size wars.
Hey guys, just a brief interruption. We'll get back to the exciting show here, but I just want to really ask a favor that you guys could make sure that you're subscribed if you're watching this on YouTube. If you are listening to this on a podcast, please take a second and review this. You don't even have to write a lengthy review or anything at all. Just click the number of stars that you want to give us. It really helps us in the algorithms to make sure people are finding out about what's happening here. All right, back to the show.
And I started writing about Bitcoin during my time on a crew. I was captaining a crew transfer vessel in the Baltic Sea in southern Denmark, taking out technicians to wind turbines, and we had a lot of spare time because these particular technicians were just inspecting the wings. So we took the technicians to the turbine, and they climbed up the nozzle and hang down by a rope along the wing of the turbine, and they stayed there for like 10 hours. And during the meantime, we moored to another turbine, a neighboring turbine, and just did fuck all for for hours on end. And there was no internet connection, and the only other guy on board was this old Danish AB that I could hardly talk to. And he was fine with just sitting in a chair and doing nothing all day. But I had my ADD like got the best of me, so like I got bored with my telephone games and whatnot. So I started writing articles about Bitcoin, which I was insanely fascinated by, and had been since a couple of years earlier when like my interest for it started when I was sailing a tall ship around the northern Atlantic mostly.
And how did you get into that? I mean, that's a pretty unique niche. I don't think there's too many tall ships that are traversing the globe these days.
Now, okay, so we'll do the TLDR on my entire life then. I grew up on the Swedish countryside. I had a father that was a sea captain, and after graduating high school and all of that, I started studying electronics engineering in the at a university. But I was so tired of school that I failed the classes and like I was too bored with it, so I skipped it. And then I had to figure out something else to do, and my dad got me a job at a oil tanker. So I started that, and because I knew that if I did that for a couple of years, I could get into the Merchant Marine Academy and become a sea captain. So that was my aim and my goal, and I might as well do something while I figure out what to do with my life.
Was that in Mozambique, or was
No,
that?
No. Oh. Mozambique was way earlier. I was
Okay.
like 10 or 11 when we.
But your dad was involved.
Yeah, my dad had an international career after having been a sea captain for a couple of decades. He was he helped with building a merchant marine academy in Mozambique. He was helping out with some other project that I don't remember what it was in Tanzania, and he ended up at a shipping agency in Nigeria when I was in my teens, and then had a career in the shipping agency business. So he had a bit of an international career, and on and off
how
we
many years
joined him.
did you spend in Mozambique?
Just half a year.
Okay.
So and a couple of months in Tanzania as
Okay.
well, and traveled around for a bit when I was a kid, which was fairly uncommon in the 80s. I mean,
Well, I mean, Mozambique, from what I've heard, is still pretty rough, underdeveloped now. So I can imagine back then. That it
yeah,
was,
the funny thing is, I'm traveling, like I'm here with my brother now, and we both felt like more at home in El Zonte than in Medellin, or felt like it felt closer to,
Yeah.
it felt more familiar.
because Medellin's very modern, very like,
Medellin's very modern and very, I mean, beautiful and everything.
yeah, skyscrapers and tall apartment buildings everywhere, and yeah, it's very.
Yeah, but this is sort of like, you know, every now and then there's a blackout, and
Yeah.
then there's no water all of a sudden, and you automatically get a dog that walks around with you and stuff. Like I'm totally that's not unfamiliar for me. Like I've been through that before.
So you went through all that, and then you were back to the tall ship. So how long were you said you were doing something with students, or?
Yeah, this was a high school, so like the. I guess state funded in a way, or the municipality of the where I lived around the time
In Sweden.
in Sweden paid for the students. So it's a public school, high
Wow.
school, and a special kind of program that some students get to go to and spend like, I mean, the first year I did there, the kids spent 3 months away from home.
On the ship.
Yeah, per year.
That sounds
And
amazing.
and then they spent like then they reduced that to 2 months
Okay.
to fit in more classes.
Yeah.
But we sailed around the Mediterranean and the Northern Atlantic, and sometimes in the Caribbean, up the U.S. East Coast, Mexico, Colombia, on the other side, like Cape Verde Islands and Morocco and stuff. That's the furthest south we got was probably the Cape Verde Islands.
So when you're sailing a tall ship, do you have any motorized like
Yeah, of course.
components?
Like
Okay.
it's not allowed to for a ship of that size to not have a motor. So
Okay.
like, and you have these, like that's the most annoying part of it. Like that people don't think about. But when you work on a ship, you have generators, diesel generators running 24/7. So you have this constant noise in the
Yeah.
background.
So it's not this peaceful
No,
just
no,
sailing
it's not.
across
Like,
the sea.
well,
It's-
it can be if you move far away from the generators, but that's like the wheelhouse and everything was just above, so so I had to be there mostly. But I spent 8 years on that ship, like trying to figure out what to do with my life and philosophizing a lot, playing a lot of guitar, sitting under the stars and stuff, crossing the Atlantic. I had a lot of time to think, and it interested me a lot. What, like, why the different countries we came to, like, seemed all had different political systems, but seemed fundamentally to be similar. And like these differences and the similarities between the different places we went to intrigued me, and like I wanted to understand how money worked somewhere down the line there, and always been a freedom advocate, but I didn't really like deep dive into all this freedom stuff until after I found Bitcoin and like realized that fiat is a scam, and that's when I took a deep dive into Austrian economics and all that as well. So,
well, it's interesting when you travel and you see different places and the levels of economic development, and a lot of times there's not much correlation to what their natural resources are, and so it's kind of fascinating to see the different systems and choices and histories places have had and how that impacts their development.
No, and absolutely, but like, and the rest of the crew, they had a very like superficial understanding of some of the problems. For instance, when we went to Havana a couple of times, Havana, Cuba, and they had all bought the like official narrative about Cuba, that all their economic problems were like, this is what we were spoon fed by public service state media in Sweden that Cuba only has its problems because of the embargo against Cuba, and they mention nothing about the communist system that doesn't work and makes everyone poor. So there was a lot of that, and like for instance, the Swedes are. They know that there's a tipping culture in the U.S. that is different than in Europe, so they're very happy to tip the waitresses in the U.S. But they didn't tip the waitresses in Havana. So I said, like, but they make no salary in the U.S. Well, what the hell do you think they do in Havana? Like, they give. You really think, Amber or Madison here at the whatever shack in Florida is worse off than someone in Havana? Like, so yeah, a lot of those things kind of bugged me, and I just like couldn't let go of the thought that there was something else going on that was fundamentally wrong with the world, like with prices going up over time.
So what was your first introduction to Bitcoin, and was it something that you kind of grokked right away, or was it something that it took a while and a few
So the story there is
encounters?
I don't remember the first time I encountered Bitcoin, but it instantly intrigued me with like money native to the internet. And quite early on, like of course Andreas Antonopoulos played a huge role in orange pilling me, I guess. Because as everyone in my generation, like who first started doing stuff here in 16, 17 or something, everyone was an orange pill by Andreas. Excuse me.
Yeah, the first conference I went to, he was the first speaker that came out.
All right, cool. When was that?
I think that was in 19. I think it was one of the last. He kind of dropped out of the conferences after that, but it was LeBitConf in Uruguay.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I also went to my first Bitcoin only conference in 2019 in Baltic Honey Badger. But the thing that really like from the get go, I was very curious about this whole concept of something on the internet that couldn't be copied, or something in the realm of computers that couldn't be copied, because I grew up with a Commodore 64.
I had a Commodore 64.
Oh, you did?
Also.
What an amazing machine!
I only played games on it, so I was not very technical. So yeah.
Well, I programmed a bit on it, and I knew some of the fundamentals that if I wrote like 10 print hello and 20 go to 10, it would print hello over and over again in perpetuity on the screen. So I knew from an early age that everything on a computer could be copied, because fundamentally it's just ones and zeros. And the nature of information and of data is that it can be copied. And all of a sudden there's these people claiming that they found something that couldn't be copied. And that, to me, that is about as intriguing as a time machine. Is something that, like, how the hell would that work?
Yeah.
And then you learn about the blockchain and consensus mechanisms and whatnot, and it becomes even more intriguing. So I fell into the rabbit hole pretty deeply from the get go, but especially during like the runner up and the aftermath of the block size wars. Like that really intrigued me, and when SegWit 2x failed, I was like, holy shit, this actually does what it claims it does.
So did you have like an opinion during that time? Had you been in it long enough to have?
Yeah, I did, and I was so at the time, like the mantra was get control of your own keys when this fork happens, when the Bcash fork was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So how the hell do I do that? So I had to figure out how to do that, and I figured I might as well write an article about how to do it, since I don't know, like probably some other people don't know how to do this. So and that's like the first article that got sort of semi-viral. It had like 70,000 reads or something. So that's where I thought, holy shit, like maybe I have something here. Maybe there's enough potential to be heard. I had already experienced like something going viral on the internet before that, with a band I was in that had a single and a video that ended up on the Pirate Bay's first page. They had something called the Promo Bay, so my old grunge band was like
Nice.
on there for 3 days and got like a whole bunch of views. So I figured like the internet like is like the ultimate computer game. Like if you can if I just start playing this right and doing this right, then maybe, just maybe, within like the next decade, I could do anything from I could have my whole life in my phone here and like manage everything from there and be free. Uh, so I started working on that, and that became these books and what I do now. So it's
So
pretty much what I envisioned.
you've written 5 books now?
Yeah. So the TLDR on that is that all the articles that I wrote back in 2017 and 18, I compiled them into a book just to see what printing a book was like through Amazon. But then that was the only book I had to my name, and I wasn't very proud of it because it was sloppily written and not edited, and it's basically just a collection of articles. So I decided to write a proper book in 2019. I had that as a New Year's resolution that I would write a page a day for the entire year. And as with all New Year's resolutions, I broke it after 106 days. So my first book is more of a
That's pretty good that you made it 106 days. Because I know with writing, I wrote a book probably like 25 years ago. This was before self-publishing, was so easy and prevalent. And I remember working with the publisher and going back and forth, and I felt like I just always had homework. I'm glad I did it, but I don't think I have it in me to do it again. So the fact that you've written 5 books, I find that very impressive.
No, like that's the biggest hurdle. You have to find a way of making it, making the process pleasurable to yourself. Like you have to enjoy
Yeah.
the process. But the first book is called Sovereignty Through Mathematics. It's the middle one there. There's a bunch of other people's books as well. But the Sovereignty Through Mathematics, I wrote it, and I got some editing help pretty early on from a Bitcoin core developer who still wants to remain anonymous, but I had a huge help. You know who you are. Thank you very much still for helping me. He had a huge impact on why that book became such a good product in the end. And and of course I published it, and nothing happened. No one cared. But a couple of months later, I took the book to Baltic Honey Badger in Riga, and I brought 50 books in my hand luggage. And I was still working for the shipping company at the time, and I managed to fool them, or semi-fool them, if anyone from the company is listening here, that I was going there to meet with a merchant marine academy and like a manning company, because we had just started to employ people from the Baltic countries. So it was like, I wouldn't say I fooled them. It's more of like a combined venture.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
my
You
big
did
goal
that, and you got to the
yeah,
conference at the same
my
time.
aim was always the
Yeah.
Baltic Honey Badger thing. So went there with the 50 books, and I sold 25 of them over Lightning in 2019.
Wow, that's impressive.
And gave out the other 25 to important people in Bitcoin, like Jimmy Song and Seyfried, and and I got to know so many now legends at that conference, like Gigi, for instance, and Max Hillebrand, and all sorts of people, and Giacomo, all sorts of people that are now considered absolute legends in the space. And I'm so happy in hindsight I went to that one, because now also Sovereignty Through Mathematics is one of the like 10 books recommended on MicroStrategy's website. So it has taken a life. It has a life of its own now, and I'm very proud of it. And yeah, after that, this is the TLDR on the books. The next year, I wrote one called Independence Reimagined, which is like the follow-up to this one, where I collaborated with an artist called Fractal Encrypt that you probably know of.
Who is it?
Who makes those full node statues, those big circular things. So he helped me with the cover, and the year after that, I started writing articles again for a little Bitcoin fan scene thing run by Hodlonaut called Citadel 21. And one of those articles had a sentence in it that said, imagine everything there is divided by 21 million, which then turned into an audio version of the article and later on a video. So Guy Swan read the audio, and Joni Appelberg. I don't know if you talked to him when he was here. He was here like half a year ago or something, I think.
Don't think so. I'm so bad with names.
Yeah,
You run
yeah.
into so many people
Anyway,
that, yeah.
it's so he made this beautiful little animated video from the article, and which turned into that equation, that now infamous equation, infinity over 21 million. So then things got weird because that equation took off and people started adding it to their Twitter handles and tattooing it into their bodies and stuff.
Really?
So I just had to write the book and like
Yeah.
claim, because other people were making money off of my equation or my equation. I shouldn't say the equation I happened to stumble upon.
Yeah.
And so I figured I'd better write the book, and decided to quit my job. By that time, I was the HR manager of the shipping company, or crewing manager, and I had like 250 employees.
That sounds like a horrible job to me.
It was a yeah, but I liked it because
Really?
it involved a lot of quick problem solving. That you
Okay.
had to shoot from the hip a lot and like just sort things out fast, and I liked that. But anyway, I quit it, and I just after COVID, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? This is insane. I have no spare time. I leave my house before the sun comes up, and I come home after it's gone down. I see my kids like 1 hour a day. So I decided to quit my job, take all my stuff, move down to our holiday home in Spain, and do Bitcoin full time. And within the first week we're in Spain, I get a text message from Jeff Booth saying, I'm traveling around Europe. May I come around your house in like a week or so? And I'm like, holy shit, Jeff Booth wants to come to my place. And yeah, and he did, and he motivated me to write the book and make it the best it could be, and very graciously offered to write the foreword. And we've been friends ever since, and I'm very proud of that book. After that, I wrote a book about praxeology last year, and this year I've, with my podcast co-host Luke de Wolf, I've written a book called Bitcoin: The Inverse of Clown World, which is the one on the left there, which I think is my best one yet. It's a little deeper, a little funnier, and a little more toxic than the earlier ones. And there's more to it. I might as well shill the whole thing here, because
shill away.
we are in collaboration with Plan B Network, the ones doing the conference in San Salvador, and amongst others, we're releasing all the plan is to release all the books for free on Noster, chapter by chapter. So I'm going to release. They're going to be publicly available, all the chapters of all the books, and we're going to make a little video and a little discussion forum about each chapter being released each week from somewhere towards the end of February, maybe the 21st of February and onwards. That is the plan. We'll see how long it takes before we start this thing off. But that is like my big thing.
How will people find those?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter or Noster, and I will spam my feed with information about this stuff. But and we have some Noster people on board that will help us, make it be seen on Noster that this is a thing. And I hope that as many people as possible would join the discussions and ask me tough questions about all the ideas in the books, because I believe ideas thrive when challenged.
Definitely.
And I want to be challenged, and I want to play the devil's advocate and defend everything,
Yeah.
and all
No,
of that.
I'm wired that way too. Some people get upset if you challenge. I'm like, no, come at me, because
No,
maybe you'll change my mind and I'll realize I'm wrong,
Yeah.
and then I'll benefit from it. So
exactly. I want to change my
Yeah.
mind. I want people to convince me of a better idea than the one I have currently, because you can always evolve your thinking.
yeah.
So no, I'm looking forward to that a lot. We have a lot of other projects coming up. If you scroll down a bit, we've just released the first paperback version of the Bitcoin Times. We're taking over the Bitcoin Times magazine, which is an exclusive publication all the best authors in Bitcoin. Right now, this is the first edition, so it's when it was released, it was only Svetsky in it, but I added some, or we added some of my articles at the end of it, or 2 articles of mine, old articles of mine. But these, this is kind of a legendary magazine that was released once a year. There are 6 editions now, and the plan is to release 21 of them. Like, it's a 21-year project.
Okay.
Hopefully, we can at least keep the flame burning while we are the publishers. So
Yeah.
we've taken it over the publishing side from Svetsky, and the latter editions especially, they have all the best writers in Bitcoin, the biggest names, Lynn and Jeff and Parker Lewis, and everyone has written for this Bitcoin Times magazine. So I'm very happy to be doing that. This is just the paperback edition, so it's now available in book form as well, like the same format as my books there. Very simple thing, but the real beauty is the collector's edition, and there's only 2,100 issued of each one of those, and it's printed in stunning colors and really nice looking collector's magazines.
And they can find all this on your website.
Yeah, this is bitcoininfinity.com will lead you to both the store and the pod. The other thing I do is the pod, the Bitcoin Infinity show. So that's, yeah, there we go.
And how often do you put out shows?
Once a week.
Once a week. Okay.
Yeah. So we've been doing that for, yeah, I met Luke in a little more than 2 years ago, and he's the yang to my yin,
Okay.
or the tonic to my yin.
You trimmed your
maybe.
beard up a little bit. Since
Yeah,
you took that
yeah.
picture.
I've trimmed up my beard. That photo was taken on Madeira. I'm a part of the Free Madeira organization.
Okay.
So I also helped, or tried to help Orange Pill a place. So we formed the Free Madeira Association like 3 years ago,
Okay.
and had the conference back in March,
yeah.
Bitcoin Atlantis. I'm sure you heard of that.
I was looking at going to that, but I'd been traveling so much that I didn't. But I was definitely having FOMO, like seeing all the cool stuff. And I'm actually now serving on, I guess it's the board of Free Madeira. I think it's the board or advisory committee, whatever, helping
cool.
with yeah. So
I think that's what. Now I remember where we met. Like first time we met was probably online in one of those meetings between the Free Madeira organization and this thing.
maybe I still think it was in Lugano, but yeah.
Yeah, but like a couple of years back, I think so. Maybe.
Yeah, my memory.
Time
my
flies.
memory as
Yeah.
I get older, and there's so much.
Yeah.
It's like that computer, wheel that's spinning, not enough memory. Like.
No, so the show is philosophical and lighthearted, and we try to. So Luke is my. He doesn't like this, but if I'm Aussie, he's Sharon, or we have a Trey and Matt sort of thing going there. He's very industrious and organized, and I'm this wish-washy hippie thinker. So it's very good. We make a good team, and I love working with them. So that's why it's just we just kept expanding what we do. We love what we do, and writing together was like, first I wrote the bulk of the book, but then I brought Luke in and figured that the book would be a lot better if he helped me with it to as large an extent as possible. So I brought him in as co-author, and we finished the thing. And we are super proud of it, the new one, The Universal Clown World. So yeah, I think everyone should read it.
Definitely. Curious, you had mentioned before we came online that you'd been following what was happening in El Salvador, even prior to the Bitcoin law, when the Bitcoin Beach project was still early. I'm curious what kind of drew you to that, and then I don't know if you've been here long enough to get any flavor for, how the circular Bitcoin economy is working here, and just your opinion, like, is it, do you feel it's working well? Do you feel like, it was overhyped and you expected more? I'm always curious to get people's opinions, because we have people on, sometimes in the same group, you'll have one person say like, oh, this is way more than I thought, and another person be like, oh, I can't believe, this is a lie. They're still using dollars some places, and so I'm just curious what brought you to the project to begin, and then what's your being here on the ground, what your thoughts are.
I mean, I saw the project. I followed it on Twitter before Bukele was a thing. Like when you guys started up and like made it into, hey, look, there are these crazy Bitcoiners that are trying to orange pill some surf shacks in the, surf shacks in the middle of nowhere here, and like it looked like a cool project from the get go. Uh, and well, my experiences here, I mean, I try to not have too many expectations
Hmm.
going somewhere, and then again, like you have your life experience and everyone's biased, but it's very much what I expected it to be. And maybe that's because I've been following the project and talking to people who've been here.
Yeah.
Uh, some of the shops don't take Bitcoin, or some of the places. I guess it also depends on who's working that day. You know.
Yeah,
Uh,
sometimes it's the owner just has it on their phone, and if they're like in the city picking up supplies or
yeah.
something, then
And
yeah.
for instance, the other night there was this supermarket looking thingy, whatever, and the lady working there had one tooth, and she's like 80 years old, so she didn't take card or nor Bitcoin. So, but what she could do was call her daughter, who came with a pickup truck like 10 minutes later, and she could settle it
Okay.
over her. She shared her Wi-Fi, and then we could settle in Bitcoin like that. So it's well, it's fun, and it's like the potential here is absolutely enormous. Like there's so much to do, and so much improvements to be done. So many improvements to be done to the infrastructure stuff and everything. Like not only in El Zonte but El Salvador on
Yeah.
a whole. So there's. I mean, I think the opportunities here are just endless. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're seeing so much growth in construction right
Yeah.
now. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's you walk around, you feel like you're just on a construction site. So,
Yeah.
but it's fun to see the country growing and improving. Um, just curious, you know, kind of back to El Salvador. What do you think is the promise that this holds? What would you tell people kind of when you know, they ask you how was El Salvador? What's kind of the overall flavor that you would give to people?
Well, we haven't been around very much yet, so we've mostly just been in El Zonte this week. And El Zonte, like I think people expect it to be bigger than it is because it's really small.
Yeah, it's a very small little
Yeah,
village.
yeah, there's really there are two like main streets, and those are like, and then there's other streets branching out from those. M- But that's it. There's nothing else. Like, uh, and yeah, which people, I mean, you have to take it for what it is. I mean, we had a couple of blackouts and the water. We had no water the other day, or very low pressure, at least. So,
Yeah, there's
I mean,
definitely growing pains still. It's
yeah, still, it's a developing country, for lack of a better word.
yeah.
But it's a country and it's developing. Like every country is a developing country from that sense, but yeah, some more than others, I guess. But but it's a beautiful place. I mean, and what I love about coming to other continents in particular is that everything in nature is slightly different than what you're used to. So like I travel around quite a bit in Europe, but Europe feels like the same. I know Europe, like I know what the beetles look like. I know what the birds sound like. But whenever I come to South America or Australia or something that I'm not used to, then that's a whole like that's that in itself is a reason to go here. Like I love seeing new animals and new plants and new flowers and stuff like that. Hear new sounds. I like that a lot.
Yeah. No, it's a very beautiful place. Just the nature and the it's you know, you talk to some Bitcoiners that are kind of drawn to Dubai and that type of world where everything's
Mm.
very orderly. And
Yeah.
I have a hard. I mean, we went to the conference that was in Abu Dhabi and we spent a few days in Dubai. And
I
I
mean,
mean, it's amazing to see, but I could never live there. I mean, it would suck the life out of me. But some people love that. So I feel like in the Bitcoin space, you have the people that are drawn to Dubai and you have the people that are drawn to El Salvador. Like
yeah.
it's a very different crowd.
No, same here. I mean, around 2000, or a bit earlier, like 1998, 1999, my mom and dad moved down to Bahrain in the Persian Gulf, and there's like a mini Dubai
Yeah.
thing going there. And so I spent quite some time down there back then, and I've been to Dubai too. And like you say, like orderly is one thing, but the lack of nature,
Yeah.
it's so
Everything's just concrete and
concrete and sand and like
yeah.
arid. Uh, it's not like I want a bit more nature than that.
Yeah. Yeah. It has a beautiful coastline, but other than that, it's pretty drab.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dubai bashing.
So, what are you looking forward to for the Plan B conference next week? And what are you speaking?
I am speaking, and apparently we're playing too. Like Nevermind will return, which is my Nirvana cover band that I
Oh,
have with
really?
Samson.
Awesome.
So we're gonna play some stuff. There will be a Rockamoto.
Is
and
it during the
play.
actual conference, or is it like an after party, or what? What is?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
Like Mus takes care of that.
Okay.
Like the guy who organizes these things. But yeah, I'm giving a talk on monetary maximalism, which I think is important for Bitcoiners to understand that if Bitcoin has other use cases than money, its functionality is as money is worse off.
Yeah.
So it's just like
I love that.
Yeah. So
I love that.
Right
Shout
now,
out to the ordinals people. You got to listen to this, please.
Yeah. Listen up. So just as when you have beachfront houses, like here in El Zonte, for instance, they or El Zonte might be a bad example because probably there's a different owner for each house. But if you take somewhere like close to where I live in Spain, for instance, there's like a ghost town because a lot of the same people own all the houses. Because real estate is being used as stores of value.
Yeah.
So, for instance, a billionaire buys up all the properties on a luxurious beach somewhere, and that solves the store of value problem for the billionaire. But if the money was working and the money was a better store of value than the houses, which is now true because we have Bitcoin, we have damn near perfect money. So Bitcoin is a better store of value than real estate, or as I prefer to call it, a medium of exchange over time. I don't really like the term store of value because I think medium of exchange over time and space is just two sides of the same coin. But anyway, if the money is functioning, then the billionaire doesn't have to buy 50 houses. He can
push
buy
up
two.
The housing prices
exactly
up for everybody else.
So the houses get affordable, so
Yeah.
it solves the billionaire's problem and solves the little guy's problem. So it solves all the problems.
Because you have all this distortion now in the world because people are using things other than money as money. So they're driving up housing prices, they're driving up, art, other things that, beyond what the actual value of it is, just because of the store of value component.
Exactly. But what people forget is that the inverse of that is true as well. So if the money we're using is being used for other use cases, then it loses its functionality as money. And maybe like the ordinals stuff isn't messing with the store of value thing, but it is messing with the fungibility thing.
Oh yeah.
And it is messing with
and the usability. I mean, we saw when you have the fees all over the board when people are trying to use it as their daily money. It has a huge
longer
impact.
to sync along a node now, and if we don't have node decentralization, then Bitcoin is fucked because then it's just another shitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So what makes Bitcoin is like the most fragile and the most robust system at the same time, because the way I see it, it's not backed by energy, but by humans at the end of the day. Like everything in Bitcoin has a human being behind it. So it's about human incentives and what we do. And if we want to protect it, and those of us who see it for what it is, like this, a thing that has like potential to change the world in unimaginable ways, like the goods it can bring are so fantastic, utopian even, but it actually works, and it does that already for those of us who experience it, right? So, but if we want to keep that, we need to stay vigilant, and we need to everything is good for Bitcoin except complacency. That is Bitcoin's only enemy, in my opinion.
Well, and I mean, you have Bitcoiners in the space that are like all excited that, oh, hey, all the stuff that's been being done on Ethereum and everything, it's coming back to Bitcoin. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, I'd rather let them screw
No.
around with all that
No.
and just keep Bitcoin as money. Why are we celebrating they're bringing all this crap back to Bitcoin?
Like if the experiment could have been replicated, which it can't, because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's resistance to replicability, right? So you only get one shot at doing this right. But if it could, like, I don't even like the Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. Like, I wish that wasn't there. I wish it was only money, and that it had no other use case. I mean, that you couldn't use it for anything else. I think that would be preferable. And and I've been giving a talk on that and going into a bit more detail why these things are untrue, why there aren't really any pictures on the time chain and whatnot. But yeah, looking forward to the conference a lot. I mean, I love the Plan B people, and I love being here, and I look forward to seeing San Salvador and all the rest. Like, looking forward to all of it.
I heard rumors today that the tickets are all sold out. I don't know if it's true or not, but
Oh, really?
I know they sold out all the cypherpunk ones, which were like the high level ones. But
oh, cool.
Somebody told me today that all the general admissions ones were sold out. So I don't know if they're going to release any more, but I think they've sold way more than they were expecting. And it's been we're helping do a couple Spanish tracks as part of the conference. So we've been having weekly meetings with them and seeing this all come together kind of behind the scenes. And so it's it's going to be an amazing conference.
The way I understand is like a Spanish speaking day and an English speaking day, right?
No, the tracks will be run on different stages. So there's going to be stages that are like Spanish only and stages that are English only, but kind of in parallel.
Cool.
Which is really cool, because a lot of times, you have these conferences and a lot of local people don't attend because, even though they have the translation with the earbuds and that thing, they kind of feel like it's not for them. So I love the fact that they're going to have, kind of native Spanish, speakers that are delivering.
Yeah, that's cool.
I got drug into a Spanish panel when we were in Medellin, because they did kind of a mix in Medellin. They did some stuff in Spanish and English, and somebody didn't show up, so I got drug into that. So that was I think I did okay. I faked my way through it.
Yeah, but I am embarrassed of my Spanish. I should be so much better, but I've been traveling so much to other countries than the one I live in where they speak Spanish.
I mean, I've been living here for forever, but when you learn when you're older, it's tough. My kids, I mean, they just rattle.
Same with mine. They're both fluent in Spanish nowadays.
So I'm gonna have to come check out your talk then at Plan B. Do you know which day you're speaking?
I think on the first day.
First day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the first talks.
I'll have to come check that out.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Well, anything else you want to leave people with?
No, I mean, give us a follow, the show a follow. I think we should, we have such great conversations and such
tell
great
me about the podcast a little. What's the flavor of it?
It's philosophical but lighthearted, I would say, and we lots of different topics.
Do you always have guests on, or
always guests?
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a guest a week, and that's the main reason I do the podcast. Is I love this community so much, and I love strengthening the friendship bonds I've built up over the years. So you don't lose contact with these people that you like so much and like hanging out with so much. I really appreciate each and every one. Everyone's so colorful, and of course you don't agree with everyone on everything. But that's sort of the point. You have, I mean, with Bitcoiners, you can skip all the formalities about the weather and talk deep stuff instantly, and you instantly know that the other guy is above a certain intellectual thresholds and ethical thresholds, even more importantly.
No, I mean, that's why selfishly, that's why I love doing the podcast, is you get to have just amazing conversations with people, and you get to skip all the small talk
the bullshit.
and go straight straight for the the stuff that matters. And so yeah, that's kind of why I do this, is
No.
more for myself than anybody else.
And like I can give a TLDR on the message I'm trying to spread now. It's the way I see it. We are not all Satoshi, but we are all Satoshis, because at the end of the day, owning a Bitcoin is just knowing a number. Like, or knowing a secret, keeping a secret from someone else, regardless if you know your 12 words, or if you know your actual private key, or if you know the location of your private key. All it is a secret that is in someone's brain. And the same is true for like mining and running a node and everything else in Bitcoin. There's always a human being behind it. So the miner is not the ASIC running the code. The miner is the guy deciding to buy the ASIC and run the code. Which is also, by the way, going back to the ordinals crap, like I don't view a miner who just sells his hash rate to a pool and doesn't know what kind of block he's mining on is an actual miner. It's just a hashing salesman. So you can't really call yourself a Bitcoin miner if you have no say in what block you're mining on, right? But at the end of the day, what that means to me is that Bitcoin at its core is just communication, and it's just knowing a number. So owning, when you say that you own a Bitcoin, the only reason that you own it in practice is that you find the plausibility of anyone else knowing the same secret as you to be so low that you, for all intents and purposes, you own it, right? But it's not really owning, it's just knowing a number.
Yep.
So it's not digital gold, it's just knowing a string of numbers. It's not a crypto asset, it's knowing some numbers. It's not a medium of exchange, it's talking to one another. Like everything, and what this means to me is that we humans had this in us all along. Bitcoin just unlocked this, the power of consensual interactions and voluntary interacting with others voluntarily, because all other types of money has a bit of violence baked into them, since someone can print it, which is just the same as stealing from your fellow man. And we humans have two means of resolving conflict, and one is violence and the other is communication. And Bitcoin makes communication more profitable. It removes the profitability of violence, because I can point a gun in your head and say, Mike, give me all your Bitcoin. And you can give me a fraction of it, and I have no way of verifying how much you actually owned, which is true for every person on earth.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, this is a violence removal tool. It's the that you opt into. Everything is voluntary. Everything is consensual. And at the end of the day, like, what is good for you is good for me, as long as we're both on a Bitcoin standard. Which means that was always true. What's good for one person is good for every person on earth, as long as we have a free market. So you get 8 billion people working for 8 billion people in the end. Right now, it's just us Bitcoiners. But when you see that, and you see that you are the same entity now, since the Bitcoins live within you and you're part of the same organism, like, your world will never be the same again, because all of a sudden you got best friends everywhere that will have your back and that will do anything for you all around the world, and you are willing to do anything for them as well. And I think this will usher in an era of prosperity and just a beautiful world, abundance without over consumerism, quality over quantity, all of that, everyone being nice to one another. Sounds utopian, but like, I really think all the vectors are pointing in that direction for Bitcoiners.
Well, I think that is a good note to end on. I don't think we're gonna get any better than that. But let's make sure people know where they can find the books again. Give the website, your Twitter handle,
Yeah.
how they can find you at Noster.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to put out there?
So I'm bitcoininfinity.com. You'll find everything there. So this is the store and the show. Yes, I have my personal website, but I'm moving over to this bitcoininfinity.com. At Knut Svanholm on Twitter, primal.net/Knut on Noster, I guess, is the easiest way to find me there. And yeah, check out the show, Bitcoin Infinity Show. Start following that wherever you can. And
It's on all the podcast platforms.
yeah,
Do
it's
you
on
guys
all the
do video
platforms.
also?
We do video also,
Okay.
so it's on YouTube.
On
And
YouTube?
we do Noster first, so it's released one day earlier on Noster.
Okay, I like that.
Both video and audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're on Fountain and all of the other
Okay.
Bitcoin
Are you on
platforms.
Rumble?
I think we never we tried that, but we never followed up on it
Yeah.
because we felt it wasn't going anywhere. We went with Noster instead.
I think now that they're having a presence in El Salvador, we're now putting all our shows on Rumble and
So
want to support.
Rumble is
with
big
it.
here.
Yeah, so they just announced some deals with El Salvador, and they're talking about potentially moving their headquarters here. So Chris,
that's cool.
the CEO, was here a couple weeks ago, actually in Zonte, and got to meet him. And so obviously align with his philosophies, and it doesn't have the you still have the attack vector issue to deal with that Noster does better, but I think that for what they're doing and locating in El Salvador, and they're kind of negating at least some of the potential for people to censor there. So
we should look into Rumble again then.
Yeah. No, we got to support people that support freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, looking forward to this year so much. There is so much happening. I'm doing the whole conference gauntlet again and traveling to all corners of the world. If a globe has corners, and just looking forward to all of it and to meeting all of these awesome Bitcoiners again and just doing the things.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll probably catch up at another conference in this year.
Yeah, I hope we will.
All right, thanks.
Thanks for having me.